Shalom, Yasharala. It is a beautiful, beautiful day. I'm gonna go ahead and before we start, apologize about any glitching, any lag. AT&T sucks. Okay, AT&T sucks, but that's the only internet provider that was here where I'm at. And I always have to say that in the beginning because it's embarrassing a little bit because I ain't used to all of this lagging. My last internet provider was the Shiz Naive, but I don't have it anymore because it's not in this location. So we are stuck with AT&T, unfortunately. So I want to go ahead and hop right into what we are going to be studying in this evening. We will resume Romans as Yahawah wills, but currently I am in the book of Second Corinthians. I am in chapter 10. And Paul has like such a clap back, like he clapping back at everyone even before they were born. It's like it's so in the spirit, and with everything that has been going on with the opposition against Paul, which is insane. It's just like this chapter is amazing. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to do one recording so we can get in and get out. Okay, there may be some pauses in the midst thereof, but we're gonna get all the way through it. Okay, Lord willing. So I'm a timestamp today. It is we are still in the eighth Hebrew month. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I don't know what day of the eighth Hebrew month it is because I don't have my calendar near me. But it is the eighth Hebrew month, okay? And it is the what? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, the fourth day of the week, okay? So actually, it would be the fifth day of the week because it's evening and it's the Gregorian Thursday, but it's evening, so it's the new day. Anyhow, I'm not gonna confuse anyone. So it's the eighth Hebrew month, and we are in the fifth day of the work week. Glory be to the Lord that it is passing by as swiftly as it is. Gregorian time stamp keeping, it is the 12th day of the 11th month. And it is the year 2025. Right now, it is 9:07 p.m. That is Central Standard, and it is Wednesday. Beautiful, lovely day. Let's go ahead and hop right into it. So this is Second Corinthians chapter 10, beginning in verse 1. I may hop off the camera too eventually, sorry. Possibly. But anyhow. So Second Corinthians chapter 10, verse 1 reads, "Now I, Paul, myself, beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who in presence base among you, but being absent am bold toward you. But I beseech that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence, wherewith I think to be bold against some which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh." So Paul, this is amazing. This is what I want us to understand if the majority of us do not understand this. To any newcomers, welcome to this beautiful, glorious walk. I know that coming into this walk, especially now in this time, I know it's a lot of affliction, it's a lot of contention, it's a lot of opposition, it's like camp banging, and it's like, oh my gosh, this looks worse than the world. I can almost guarantee you it's not, okay? It's not. This is a beautiful thing that we are going through at this time, in this moment, the manifestation of the works of the Most High, of His Word, manifesting right before your eyes. So keep yourself girded, stay strong, and get in the word on your own. Don't think that it's going to be like this forever. Okay, when the kingdom comes, we will be at peace and the law will be written upon our hearts and we will know this word. You understand? So basically, what I want to point out is when Paul is writing these epistles, it's not to the sheep that he is writing them to. You understand? He's writing it to the angels or the messengers, to the leaders of those churches. You understand? He's not writing this epistle and giving it to, the man that's just now learning the scriptures, or the woman that's just now learning the scriptures, or the child. Just he's giving it to the leaders of the churches to teach the sheep. You understand? So I'm going to reread verses 1 and 2 and we'll get to breaking it down. Verse 1 reads, "Now I, Paul, myself, beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ, who in presence base among you, but being absent am bold toward you." This is just Paul introducing his character. That's it. He's introducing his character. And we move to verse 2. It says, "But I beseech that I may not be bold when I am present with that confidence, wherewith I think to be bold against some, which think of us as if we walked according to the flesh." So Paul is saying, he's saying, I'm asking you earnestly now so that when I do come, I don't have to be bold like I'm going to be to some of those that are saying that we walk in the flesh. Okay, that's what he's saying. And side note, excuse me if I have to look at my notes in my scriptures. Paul is very eloquent in speech and very advanced in how he speaks. So I literally write what he's saying in layman's terms or in our understanding next to the verse so that I can comprehend it better. And so I may have to, adjust myself and look, but that's what I'm doing. So anyhow, basically, again, Paul is saying that he's asking now earnestly so that when he comes, he doesn't have to be as bold in his speech as he is going to be to those that are basically saying that he's walking in the flesh, that he's a devil or an idol worshiper or anything in opposition to the Most High. You understand? Verse 3, it says, "For though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh." He's letting it be known that even though my spirit is housed in this body, I have this flesh that you can see with your physical eye. I am not in agreement with the things of the flesh. I don't walk carnally. I see this and I want to lust for it. I don't act on that lust. That ain't something that I'm warring with. You understand? He's above that. He's walking in the spirit. Verse 4, I want to take a moment. Side note, anytime we see parentheses or italics in the scriptures, that is letting us know that it's not necessarily there. You understand what I'm saying? When the scriptures were transliterated and we see italics, that italic is a placeholder so that the predominant English speaker can understand or comprehend better what that verse is saying. It's a placeholder. I don't typically read the italics when we're reading in the scriptures. In addition to that, with the parentheses involved in the scriptures, that's just giving you a little bit more elaboration from the writer's point of view. And by writers, I mean the people that edited the Bible. You understand what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily there, right? So I'm going to read verse 4, but then I'm going to resume into verse 5. So verse 4 says, "For the weapons of our warfare not carnal, but mighty through Yahawah to the pulling down of strongholds." So he's letting it be known, first of all, the weapons that we use to war against what we are warring against are non-carnal. So if our weapons are non-carnal, by golly, we have to understand that the things that we're warring with are non-carnal as well. So that's just emphasis being placed on, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. He's not warring with something that's fleshy. He's in the spirit. You understand? And those that were walking with him were as well. Verse 5, it says, "Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of Yahawah, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahawah." He says, casting down imaginations. This word imaginations means thoughts hostile to our faith, to our belief, to our religion, to our discipline. And then these two words, high thing, that phrase, I recently learned from a good sister, Esther, or goodly sister, Esther, Shalom and Thawadah, that high thing is referenced as pride or being proud, haughty, pompous, right? So these words, high thing is proud or pride, a prideful thought or thinking proudly. You understand? So rereading verse 5, it says, "Casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalted itself against the knowledge of Yahawah, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahawah." So Paul is telling you that they throw down these vain imaginations, these vain thoughts that have nothing to do with the Lord. He also says that they cast down, they throw down the high things, the proud things that go against the very knowledge of our Creator. And what does he do with those? He says, "And bring into captivity every thought to the obedience of Yahawah." So with every thought that you have to combat that with your non-carnal weapon, the scriptures, fasting. You understand this word? You have to be girded. So for every unclean thought you have to combat that with the word of the Lord. You understand what I'm saying? At all times, at all times. So it says in verse 6, I want to actually go back to verse 5, which I already emphasized, but I want us to take into account and understand that Paul is helping us to understand where sin begins. Sin begins in your mind, right? The majority of the things that we go through, the majority of the things that we go through are mental. You understand what I'm saying? It's about how your mental is perceiving it. We as a nation, as a people in general, as humankind, mankind, whatever, but our people in general, which are the people that I'm speaking to, we as a people, as a nation in general, have to understand the importance of training your brain for mental strength. Okay? The majority of what you go through is about your mental and your capacity. You understand? Up here. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to be self-aware. You have to be disciplined. You have to have a positive and realistic thought process about yourself. Adaptability, if I didn't say adaptability, and emotional management, proper emotional management. You understand what I'm saying? And that's just side note, but it coincides with what we're reading today. So Paul is letting us know once again that the majority, if not all, that we go through as far as the beginning of sin, it starts in your mind. So you got to cast it down by rebuking it and reputing it, fighting it with your non-carnal weapon. And that's this word. You see what I'm saying? So let's go on down to verse 6. It says, and having in a readiness to revenge all disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. So when you become fully obedient, we will discipline those who are not. Let me move my heater, y'all. I'm like a little old lady. I'll be sitting with the heater right here. Verse 7. It says, do ye look on things after the outward appearance? If any man trust to himself that he is Christ's, let him of himself think this again, that as he Christ's, even so we Christ's. Paul clapping back at all this foolishness that's happening in the Israelite community as of today in the year 2025. He clapping back in like 37 AD before you were even born. He is telling you, do you judge somebody? Do you know somebody by just looking at them? Can you tell me about this person by just looking at them? No, you cannot. For one thing, you cannot. You can't. You see what I'm saying? You can't. You judge a person by the fruits that they yield. But anyhow, he says, if any man trust in himself that he is Christ, let him of himself think this again, that as he Christ, even so we Christ. So for that same person, if you believe that you belong to Yahawah, then believe too that I do as well, that we do as well. It's just that simple. Paul, look, y'all better stop playing with my brother. My goodness, when I read this, I was getting hyped up in the spirit. I was like, man. So now we're going to move on to verse 8. I'm about to pause right quick here because my camera keeps freezing and I have to write a few notes, and then I'll be right back with you. One moment. So, okay, verse 8, it says, for though I should boast somewhat more of our authority, which the Lord hath given us for edification, and not for your destruction, I should not be ashamed. So Paul is saying, I may seem to boast a lot, right? I may seem to boast a lot about our authority, but our authority builds you up, not tears you down. So I'm not going to have any shame in boasting. Verse 9, it says, that I may not seem as if I would terrify you by letters. Simple. He said, I'm not trying to scare you by these letters that I'm writing. Verse 10, and I think I said that was verse 10, but that was actually verse 9. So let me reread it because I think I said verse 10. Verse 9, it says that I may not seem as if I would terrify you by letters. Again, that's just Paul saying so that he's not scaring the Corinthians through the letters that he's writing, because he's writing bold and confident. You understand? Verse 10 says, for letters say they weighty and powerful, but bodily presence weak and speech contemplable. So that's saying his letters are bold, but in the flesh, Paul is gentle, he's humble, he's meek, he's sweet, and his words are placed as nothing. Verse 11. not sweet in a sense, because I know how worldly some of my people can get. Not like that. He's just gentle. He's meek. It's just recalling verse 1 where it says, now I, Paul, myself beseech you by the meekness and gentleness of Christ. Paul was a gentle man. He was a gentleman and lowly. You understand? Verse 11, it says, let such an one think this, that such as we are in word by letters when we are absent, such also indeed when we are present. So he's saying to let them that take, I'm so sorry, let them that talk, y'all, my writing is so little, I'm sorry. So he's saying, let them that talk this madness know that our actions will be just as bold as our letters when we get there. So keep that same energy that you had when you were saying Paul is a devil, or Paul is an idol worshiper, or Paul is this and Paul is that. Anything in opposition to the word of the Most High pertaining Paul's apostleship, keep that same energy. That's what that said. Verse 12, it says, for we dare not make ourselves of the number, or compare ourselves with some that commend themselves. But they measuring themselves by themselves and comparing themselves among themselves are not wise. So Paul is basically saying that he's not numbering himself or calling himself an elect. That's not what he's doing. And he's also saying that he's not even comparing himself to those that have approved themselves. And he's letting you know that those that are measuring themselves by themselves and commending themselves and approving themselves by themselves, those people are not wise. You're nothing. You're not the new priest of this era. You're not the new Christ of this area. You're nothing. And you're unwise to even put yourself in a position to commend or approve yourself. Verse 13, it says, but we will not boast of things without measure, but according to the measure of the rule which Yahawah hath distributed to us, a measure to reach even unto you. So Paul is saying, we're not measuring outside of our limits. We're measuring according to what Yahawah has done in us. And then it says, which includes working with you. So he's not, what is a good word? He's not high-sided, right? He ain't capping. There you go. He's not capping. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's keeping it real. He's only measuring by what the Lord has done through him. And that includes the people that he's been working with and preaching this gospel to. Verse 14, it says, for we stretch not ourselves beyond as though we reach not unto you. For we are come as far as to you also in the gospel of Christ. That's saying we're not overstepping by saying we don't work with you. We travel to you to preach this gospel. That's of a truth. I ain't reaching. This ain't a stretch. This ain't no cap. Verse 15, it says, not boasting of things without measure of other men's labors, but having hope when your faith is increased, that we shall be enlarged by you according to our rule abundantly. He's saying that we're not claiming something we haven't done. Okay, we do have hope that when you increase in faith, right, our bounds or our limits will expand as well, because it's like a, what is the word? Not clientele. It's like a word of mouth. So the more people know in that province and that state, and it keeps expanding in the boundaries, then Paul can go and teach on that, because that's part of his foundation. He's laying that foundation. You understand? So he can continue to build on it. So the more hope and faith through people learning this gospel, learning these glad tidings as they are written, that expands his bounds so he can go and teach the more. You understand what I'm saying? So let's go on to verse, where we at, y'all? 16. Let me just make sure, not boasting of things without measure. Yes, verse 16. To preach the gospel in the beyond you, not to boast in another man's line of things made ready to our hand. That just basically let me backing off what we were already speaking about in the spirit. He's saying that he's saying so we could teach in locations or areas beyond you, not coming building on somebody else's foundation. You know what I mean? That's just respect. That's just a respect thing. So anyhow, verse 17, it says, but he that glorieth, let him glory in the Lord. Be humble. Maintain your humbleness and your meekness when you're in this walk. And even when you become so known or popular or thinking you this big person in the Israelite community, stay meek and stay humble before you get tossed out. You do not want to get to playing with the Lord. That's not what we want. You understand? He will blow your candlestick out immediately. And that's not what you want. Stay meek and stay humble. You have to have a spirit of giving thanks and all praises to the Most High about the work that He's done in you, or for the work that He's done in you. Because we literally are nothing. We nothing but vanity of vanities. And we don't even last that long. We're like freaking air, steam. What does it say in James? I gotta get the word, y'all. I gotta get that word that James used. Oh my god, I can't turn to it immediately. Vapor. There you go. Vapor. We're like vapor. So don't get puffed up. Give glory to the Most High. If the Lord used you to bring thousands upon thousands into this truth, give glory and praise to the Most High. That ain't your work. He chose you. So be humble, stay meek, glory in the Lord. You understand? Verse 18, it says, for not he that commendeth himself is approved, but whom the Lord commended. Just because you are approving yourself, recommending yourself, giving a recommendation letter to those for you, that doesn't mean anything. It's the Most High that approve it. You understand what I'm saying? You can't make straight what the Most High has made crooked, and you can't call good what the Most High has called bad. Everything evolves and revolves around the Most High God of Israel, Yahawah. So stay humble. Baby, Paul ain't no devil. Paul ain't no idol worshiper, and Paul wasn't teaching us to do evil. Paul is of Christ. So if you believe that you are of Christ, you better also believe that Paul is too. He got his apostleship in the book of Acts. Get in your scriptures and study your word to show yourself approved. That's it. I hope that was straight to the point. I love you all, and shalom. Oh, remember, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Never cease prayer, bind and loose, and always live ready. I will talk to you all as Yahawah wills. Bye.